the shed today. Car's still sitting where it was. Been working with a couple of mates on the idle. Got it idled pretty nice now. It's become apparent that pretty much every one of the V-bands is leaking in one way or another, including the flange for the turbo that meets here, even though it's not a V-band, that's leaking as well. So one of the couple of jobs I've got to do today is to try and seal up all of the flanges properly so it doesn't chooch as much. I've also got a pretty significant water leak which appears to be coming from the radiator, and it's dripping off the bottom, so it may be from where it's modified or it may be a hose in between, but it looks like it's coming from the radiator itself. So I'm going to get that pulled out today and try and pressure test that out of the car, so I can't see where it's coming from in the car. And I'd also like to get it out of park. I put it in park so I could test the neutral start switch and then put it down, and now it's in the slightly wrong spot to put it back up on the hoist, and I can't get under it to change it back into neutral, so I'll have to jack it up and move that little doodad across a little bit so I can actually get it back up in the air and have a look underneath, because it does have an oil leak as well, which I think is to do with the crankcase ventilation. That another thing I need to have a look at. So that's the goal for today. We'll see how we go. Another thing I need to get knocked off today is this wideband. I'd like to get this actually connected in with serial so I can log some data. I cut and extended this cable using a DTM 6-pin. So that's running through to the car. So like you can tell here that that's the normal wideband sensor plug, and then it's extended through the DTP 6-pin, and that part will obviously go in the car. So I have in the body loom, or the engine loom, I have the same DTM6, which will run all the way through, and there's the other end inside the car, so that basically serves as an extension, and that's shielded cable as well, because apparently you need that for widebands, I don't know. But that's what I had, so that's what I used, so that's another thing I need to do. So for that to function, I need to get a power feed from in my fuse box, which will probably go for the same as the interior lights or something, because it only needs a maximum of 3 amps, so I should be able to get one from there somewhere, and I'll wire that into its own fuse. I think there's a free fuse slot in there somewhere. I'll have to have a look, but that's another thing that needs to be done today. Okay, might be onto a winner. Looks like user error. So I'm not seeing any leaks out of anywhere that was modified on this radiator, but the clamp was really far down on this hose, and we're sort of clamping against the welded area. So I've moved it back to just behind the bar bends where it needs to, and done it up nice and tight. We'll see how that goes. I think that'll be okay. While I'm in here, I did buy a new set of water pump seals, and the new seals are under these little steam port things. So before I get too deep into something that I can't back out of easily, I'm going to pull this water pump off and just change those seals over. It makes sense to do it now, so I will do that. Alright, a bit more progress. Water pump's off. I found that the cam sensor bolt wasn't tight, so I'm sure that would have been helping. Balancer bolt also wasn't tight. It's tight now. I've changed these seals under here, cleaned up the surfaces with Scotch-Brite a little bit, same front and rear. That's why the intake manifold's off, because I can't get to the back ones otherwise. I've cleaned up the surfaces here for the water pump to run, so I've got to replace those. One of those seals was completely shot, it's in there, but it wasn't leaking from there, so that was only a matter of time, so I'll put new ones of those in. Alright, keep on going. Alright, more progress and a distraction or two. So water pump's back on, all torqued up, new seals are in there. That's all looking good. I also took the rocker covers off just to double check the valve tray and making sure it's all happy and healthy in there. It looks good. While I had this rocker off, I decided to drill and tap this port here for a -6AN line, because I noticed it was chooching a fair bit when it was running. It probably needs to breathe a bit more. It is a piece of shit engine. It's got massive ring gaps, so I don't mind, but I've put a -6 in there which runs across to a T over here. I've also drilled and tapped this rocker cover here, same thing, and I've installed this old Mighty Mouse catch can which I bought like a decade ago, and I can't remember what it was for, but it looks like it'll do what I want for this. I changed this filler neck here just from one of my other engines, just because it gets it up a bit higher, so I don't have to fight underneath all these hoses to fill up the oil or anything like that. Now I can just do it up here, so that's good. Yeah, so the way that I've got the crankcase ventilation system hooked up, and it's probably not right, so if it's completely wrong, feel free to let me know and I'll change it up, but we'll have pressure building up in here, which will be vacuumed out of that line and vacuumed out of this line. Under normal engine operating conditions, it'll vacuum in this direction and pull into this can. And it'll be pulling into this can because this line here has a one-way valve and it's pulling from here. That port there goes to the front of the throttle blade, so it won't have as much vacuum as behind, but it'll have a little bit. I can't put it on the one behind because then when the engine will suck air through here and it'll idle off that, so that'll be ridiculous. So that looks like it's going to work. One-way valve obviously here, so when it hits boost on the front of the throttle blade, it stops the flow going this way, which means any breathing the engine's got to do will come out of the vent. So it shouldn't be venting hard at idle. It'll only vent when it's under boost, which seems okay to me. I'll probably have to stop there for the weekends. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to try and squeeze a bit more in there. I need to get some intake manifold seals. They're all completely flattened out, so while this intake manifold is unbolted, I'm going to do that part. I also have some new exhaust manifold seals on the way, so I'm going to try and reseal those to make them a bit better before I get into all the V-band stuff. But that's probably going to be it for the engine bay for today. I need to do the doors. I've got this door part still here. I'll just spin the camera around there. There's no liner on here. Most modern cars use a sheet of plastic on the inside of the door trim because the door is considered a wet area, and if water runs down the inside of the door and gets on the back of the door trim, it rots it out, which is what always happens with Volvo, because Volvo don't use a plastic sheet here. They use a piece of what appears to be butcher's paper, which does not last very long. So when that disintegrates, all the water gets back into the door trim, so that's what's happened to mine. So I've got a bit of black pool liner plastic, which I'll just cut and stick on the doors, which I think will make it a bit better. I mean, this door trim's not too bad. As far as they go, this one's in pretty good condition, but you can still see it starting to rot over here. So that's where it was leaking. The driver's one's completely flogged out, but I'll put that back together and put it in, so that's what I'll get into next. Alright, did a little bit more, started pulling the turbo stuff off. I've got a couple of things I need to do here. I need to change these studs because they're too short and the seal doesn't work, so I've started doing that, and I have noticed that. Now, this car was pretty choochy on throttle, and I thought maybe it's just the state of the engine for sitting for so long, but it looks like my turbo, which has never been used before, just sitting here doing fuck all, has decided to chooch its last chooch. So that's the rear seal. We'll probably rebuild it, but it's not a good turbo, so I don't know if I'll bother. I can start looking at other options, but yeah, that's not going to work for me. Cool. Back at it this morning. Borrowed a friend's eBay billet GT42 just to see how it would fit up. See if it's an option. Obviously my turbo's no good, so it's not really worth replacing the seals in that cheap turbo, I don't think. So I'll just look at what other options I've got. I don't know if I'll go with something like this or maybe a Borg Warner S400 or something. Borg Warner's going to be more work to fit, but it might be worth it in the long run. Either way, I can't really do anything else on the engine until I've made that decision and spent the money. So this is what the GT42 is like anyway. It looks bigger than what I had. This part of the turbo actually hits the bonnet, so I could either modify a section here, but I think it would be better than if I was going to use a turbo like this to just chop this, come lower and re-weld it on. Give me another couple of centimetres of bonnet clearance there. The dump pipe doesn't fit up because the GT42's got a 6-bolt, but realistically I could just get a 6-bolt flange and weld it straight on the front of the V-band realistically. It shouldn't be too hard to do. So that could work. The compressor side lines up with the hole, so that wouldn't be too much work to make that part work as well. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I think I'm just going to ignore that for now and think about it a little bit longer and decide what I do for a turbo, because no matter what I do, it's taking away from what I wanted the car to be, which is cheap rubbish. So I think I'm going to end up down the good turbo path, which kind of changes things, which makes me debate whether I swap the engine out as well and put the good engine in now. But yeah, a lot of thinking and decisions to make. But while I'm umming and ahhing about that, there's a couple of things that I need to do to move things along that aren't really dependent on this. One of which is the handbrake. I have no handbrake hooked up in this car. Obviously it's got the Ford Explorer diff in the back, Ford 8.8 inch diff, and the Volvo handbrake on the front. So the arrangement of the handbrake is completely different. The Volvo rear diff uses a centre pull handbrake, and the Explorer uses a side pull. So I need to route the cabling a little different to work out how it's going to be. So I'll get this up on the hoist shortly. I'm going to do that door first. I'll finish off that door trim, and then I'll get it up on the hoist and start thinking about the handbrake. Okay, let's talk about turbochargers real quick. This is the GT45 eBay turbo that I have had on my LS240 project. It was the cheapest turbo I could find on eBay. I think it was $200 delivered about 10 years ago. That's roughly how long it's taken for me to do anything on this project. It's been sitting out in the weather. It's been full of sand. It's had everything happen to it except for make boost. Now that the car finally runs, I fired it up and it spins, makes turbo noises, but all of the oil came out the back, and that's not leaking from the drain. That's actually came from inside the seal here. It's just been sitting vertically, so it's stripped around the rear housing. It's also a smoke machine when it runs out of the exhaust, so that is well and truly no good. It was possibly too small for the size of the engine I've got, so I don't think it would have done much good anyway, despite being quite a large turbo and obligatory Coke can size reference. You can see, compressor wheels about the size of the Coke can. It's pretty big, but possibly not big enough. Rebuild kits for this are available, but then I'd probably have to go to the effort of balancing it. Effort exceeds the value of the turbo, not going to bother. As a last minute sort of mad rush, spoke to a good mate of mine, Azza, who happened to have this turbo. This is another eBay turbo. This is a GT42 or GTX42 copy. So it's another cheapie, but it's better than that one. Marginally bigger. It's hard to tell on this, but it is marginally taller. The compressor housing itself is bigger. So immediately I'm running into problems with bonnet clearance. It doesn't quite fit. This one's been modified. The compressor outlet's been cut off, and a 2.5 inch outlet has been welded onto that. So that's a problem because my intercooler pipes are all 3 inch. Other problem with this one is it's a 6-bolt exhaust. It's still T4, so that part bolts on, but the exhaust where it hits the dump pipe is a 6-bolt flange, so that would need to be changed regardless. So at a bare minimum, to run this turbo, I would need to chop the manifold where it mounts to here, bring the T4 flange down slightly so it clears the bonnet, and adjust the dump pipe so it suits the 6-bolt flange. More capable turbo, nice billet looking bits. Coke can says it's definitely bigger. This is an official measurement, one Coke can. I could use like measuring tools, but no, Coke can. So it's definitely bigger. It will definitely make more power. The eBay say it's good for between 800 and 1,000 horse, depending on the size of the engine. Probably closer to 800 on a big engine and 1,000 on a smaller engine with high boost. But there's that. That's an option. It's work. Or, this is another eBay turbo which I've just purchased. Coke can is back. This is a Borg-Warner S400 copy with an 88mm compressor, billet, T4 housing, 1.25 AR, so the largest of the T4 housings. I don't really want to change to T6 for 2 reasons. I'll get to that. It has a V-band outlet, so I would either have to adapt back to a normal hose thing here if I've got room, or lop this off and weld a normal 3-inch hose barb thingy on the end of there. Being T4 means that, hang on, let's do that, look, big. Being T4 means that it will bolt straight on. It's a 4-inch V-band off the back here, so again I would need to modify my dump, but if I have to do it anyway, I may as well do it properly. This turbo is rated at 1,300 horsepower, so it should do the job for this. I think 1,300 horsepower will be enough, just. So yeah, I'm going to try this on for size and see how it lines up. I don't expect it's going to clear the bonnet, but that's okay. Let's put it in and have a look. Would you look at it? Just take a look at it. Oh, yes. It doesn't fit, which, what a surprise. Wow. It's pretty much the same as the GT42 Evo Turbo as far as clearance goes. The compressor housing is a little bit taller, and it hits, yeah, there-ish, somewhere there. It's not by much. I'll pull the bonnet down. Right. We've got, I don't know, an inch, maybe, 20 mil, where it's hitting. I reckon I could probably massage that out of here to save cutting the actual main manifold up at all and unwrapping it and re-welding it and doing all that bullshit. That might be an option. I'll have to do some more measuring. I might just start hacking at this and see how it looks. Obviously the back's going to be a problem as well, because this is a 4-inch and the previous one was like a 3.25. So I'm going to need to reduce that down to 3-inch. And yes, I know it's going to be restrictive, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. It's going to make enough power. I'm doing what I have to do. There's no way that I'm going to get bigger than 3-inch down there. So just accept it. That's the way it's going to be. And you'll have to adapt it, but that shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. And that'll allow me to come away from the tower a little bit because it's too close here. It hits here. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be too much work. V-band outlet on the compressor lines up beautifully with the hole. I think I could probably just do an extension on there, so I don't have to cut the turbo. But I'll need to find an aluminium, well, maybe not even an aluminium, but a V-band that matches that, and a clamp, and then weld that onto a bit of aluminium tubing that will support a hose. Yeah, this is good. This is a good time. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. A couple more things have arrived in the mail, which I'll just go over quickly. Cheapo 200 cell cat. I don't need a cat on this because it's older, but this will knock a bit of the smell out and quieten it down a little bit as well. So I've got to modify the exhaust anyway. May as well put that in. I've got some new manifold gaskets where they meet the head. Again, I mentioned that in the last video. This video has taken over a week to record because just dramas and stuff, but they've arrived now. I ordered them when I took the other part of the video, so that they'll have to put them in when I put the manifolds back in. Intake manifold gaskets, which came with more of these water seals as well, and a new throttle seal, so I'll change all of that over. New T4 flange to go with the new turbo, sweet. I got a resonator as well, which again will knock a little bit of the noise out of the car, which should be good. I want this thing to be as quiet as feasibly possible, so yep, that's not going to cause any restrictions, no more than it's already restricted, so that'll go in. Couple more V-Bay, pretty much the same thing. eBay V-band clamps that will most likely warp when they're welded and leak anyway, which will be good. And some spark plugs. It was cheaper to buy 12 than it was to buy 8. Internet, hey, how about it? What have we got here? BPR6 EFS 15. This is what I've always used. They might be the wrong ones for what I need, but they don't cost much, and I know it'll run on them. So I'll put a new set of spark plugs in there because those will be full of like oil and shit. So that's going to be it for this video. The next video will be more focused on making the turbo fit properly. I did do a little bit of work on the handbrake as well the other day, but it's a shit show and I don't like it. I'm not going to show any of it yet. I'm basically using outdoor automatic gate roller wheels to translate the position of where the handbrake cable comes from, because it comes out of the center of the tunnel in the car, because on a normal Volvo they loop over the diff and pull across the axle tube, but on an 8.8 Explorer diff they're side pull, so they come up the side. So I've needed to run the cable up the trailing arm, roll it across a wheel, bring it across, roll it across another wheel, and then send it up the center line. It will work, but it's going to need a little bit more thinking about. So that's it for now. I'll finish off this video, and the next one will be a bit of chopping and welding, and yeah, go from there. Thanks, guys.